My parents migrated to the United States at age 18 and 19, and by that time, my older sister was 3 years old and I was 6 months old. I've been in the United States all my life, so I've been here since I was 6 months. At the time, it was just me and my older sister. Her also coming young from Mexico, she did not speak English at all either. I remember, poor thing, she had to learn English in school and it was so hard for her. She would come home with all her homework crying because she didn't understand what she had to do. I do remember that I would tell my mom I don't want to be in that situation, so I started watching TV to try to, pick up on English, but I still had a hard time. Life as a DACA here in the United States is not as simple as it once was when DACA was first introduced to us. Being a first gen is definitely so much pressure, especially having Hispanic parents that didn't go to school, did not get the opportunity. They had to stop to help their families when they were just 10, 11 years old. So for me growing up, it was always school, school, school. I couldn't think about anything else. Growing up with an older sister that went through this before me, she set a really high bar for me. So I almost felt like we were, in a sense, in competition where I just had to, one up her. Growing up with people at church at that time, not that my mom did it purposely, maybe she wasn't realizing what she was doing, but almost comparing, oh, well, why can't you be like this person? Why don't you want to do this program? And it's not that I didn't want to, I just didn't have the opportunity to. My dad, he didn't have the privilege like US citizens do. So in order to support his family, he would leave our house approximately at 4 a.m. and go looking for jobs. It wasn't as easy, him not being able to speak English. A lot of people treated him very poorly, and he did experience a lot of racism, a lot of threats with calling ICE when all he wanted to do was support his family. Unfortunately, in 2020, he passed away, and it's been really hard without him here. My dad was the biggest role model that I had in my life, especially when it came to going to school. My dad's words were always, échale ganas, mami. That was always his words. When I was 16 years old, I had to go to the hospital due to feeling a lot of pain in my stomach. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was told that I have IBS. It causes a lot of inflammation in your intestine, and I couldn't move, I couldn't eat. I had to be bending like forward in order to even breathe. And the doctor suggested that I go see a specialist, in this case, a gastroenterologist. That is the first time that gastroenterology was presented to me. I had no idea that that even existed. I was just so intrigued with the little technology that they used, the cameras that they had, the testing that they did. It was so interesting to me. I was like, wow, how cool would that be if I can, become a doctor and perhaps in the future open up a clinic and help kids like myself, or even adults that are in my situation that are paying thousands of dollars just to be seen. I did get accepted to the U of A. At the time, we did use FAFSA, so I remember we were in my room like it was yesterday, and she was helping me with the application. It went through. It said, congratulations, future Wildcat. I jumped up and down. I was so happy. I went to go tell my mom. She was happy. I got the package in the mail with the U of A gear and, bear down and all that stuff. So that really put it in perspective, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to college. Like, I'm so excited, because at the time I wanted to be a doctor. About a week after I got all the gear in the mail is when I received a letter saying that my FAFSA application was denied. FAFSA requires you to be a US citizen, which I am not. And I only had a little part-time job that wasn't going to get me through. My parents, they were caught up in bills, like they weren't able to help me either. So I did apply for some scholarships at the time that were dedicated for DACA students. However, it was 1 in a million to get in, honestly. I can't tell you how many times I applied back to back to back and just got denied every single time. So that's when I decided, like, you know what? I can't afford college, unfortunately. I know I'm not the only dreamer out there, but I can't afford it, and they don't make it easy for me to apply and to get these scholarships. So that's when I decided to look for another route. I looked into phlebotomy. It was through Carrington College. I am terrified of needles, but I don't mind putting them into people's arms. I was, a little bit scared because one, it was something new to me. And two, I wasn't sure, again, if my status was going to affect me taking the course. But I went in and I took it, and thankfully, I believe it was AZ One Stop, if I'm not mistaken, was the program that helped me despite of my status. And thanks to them, I was able to pursue phlebotomy. I took the course, I graduated, I got my certificate, and then I started working for the American Red Cross as a phlebotomist. It's just unfortunate to go from big dreams of, oh, I want to be this doctor, I'm going to go to college with all my friends from high school, it's going to be fun, to nope, you can't do that because of one thing. Not because I'm not smart enough, not because I don't qualify, but because of my status here. About 8 years later, my mom had my brother, who is the first US citizen in our family. Him and my little sister now, they both have great opportunities that me and my older sister didn't have growing up. And yeah, in a way you can say that I was a little bit resentful, it just in the terms as far as school, because I didn't get that opportunity. At the time, my brother wasn't taking school serious. I remember I had a talk with him and I told him, we didn't have that opportunity that you have. You're able to go to school with a full scholarship. I had the opportunity to apply, but guess what? I was denied because of my status. And you that have this opportunity, you're throwing it away. That's not okay. In that moment is when I felt like, damn, like, you don't appreciate this, because I would do anything to be able to have a free education. I think about going back to school now, but I'm back in the same boat that I'm not gonna get scholarships and it's too much money to pay out of pocket. So that's what discourages me to go back to school. I thought about going back for a licensed nurse practitioner, but again, being DACA, it's very complicated. It's not as easy as people make it seem. To all my fellow DACAs out there that are viewing this, just know that it doesn't end here for us. Despite how many no's, how many rejects you get, keep going. I'm happy where I am, don't get me wrong, but don't settle. Don't let the fear stop you from moving on and doing bigger things.